use it. Sorry, what?
So we got the Mule introduced last week, which was a bit of a shock for the book fans, to be honest, and there's a lot more of it this week. I'm talking about Foundation Season 2, Episode 4. As always, I'm Al. This is the Geek in Review, so let's get to it. And I know from reading the comments and social media that a lot of people weren't happy with last week's episode, and I bet they won't be happy with this one either, as we get a lot of changes to the story from the books. We get introduced to a few new characters that have been teased for a while, Rios, Hobor, Mallo, and we get a game-changing, change for Hari, Gaal and Salvor. And I knew some of this was coming, but I wasn't sure what to expect, and I'll get into that. But before I do, just to say thanks for choosing to watch this video. If you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel. And if you'd like to see a longer version of this video, you can on my Patreon, and I'll be posting longer form videos as well as early releases there as well. So if you do want to hit subscribe, or you do want to become a Patreon, the link's in the description. But anyway, let's get into the episode. Gaal and Salvor are still on their ship searching for a home for the second Foundation. They're talking about Gaal's visions of Salvor dying about 100 years in the future. But as every one of Gaal's visions have come true so far as Salvor's concerned, it's going to happen. And Hari's pretty much on board with this as well. Gaal's the only one who thinks it can be changed. So they land on the planet, which is an ex-Imperial mine, but it's not the planet that Gaal was expecting. So Hari's keeping things from her again, and again, of course, she's not pleased. And I really think that they might be setting Hari up to be the villain in this season, but I'll get to that later on. He says there's somewhere over the planet, and we get a bit of backstory of hologram and how the Empire used it and abandoned it. So Gaal takes him, and Salvor stays with the ship, the Beggar. They venture out over the planet, and we get a bit of backstory on the planet and how the Empire used and then abandoned it. And these two aren't really getting on this season. Hari says Gaal shouldn't try and convince Salvor that the future can be changed. He sees it as a waste of resources, that they need to try and change a lot, and they don't even know where to start. And I think this might be the dividing point in how they use psychohistory, or how they see it differently. Hari sees it more of a guide, and Gaal is starting to see it more of a tool. Hari tells her about his ex-partner that we meet in episode 1. Hari stays in the temple and Gaal gets locked out of the room. He tells her to leave if she doesn't hear from him in 6 hours. So Gaal goes back to the ship to tell Salvor what's happened, and they talk about how the hologram isn't the real Hari. After all, he's 100 years old, so he has changed. They decide to leave the planet after waiting, and when they try and take off, the ground collapses beneath them, and there's a huge sort of robot spider digging machine, and it all gets very Star Wars in the chase sequence, except it wasn't. Once they get off the ground, they watch them head towards the temple where Hari is, and they scan the caves and detect a life sign. Gaal's convinced it's Hari, but how? Somehow he has become flesh and blood again, at least it seems so, and Gaal watches as Hari's ex disappears back into the temple as the spider things start the attack. So she does manage to save Hari, and we've got Hari back, and a real Hari, but what does this mean? But will we get an answer for any of this? Because it's got huge implications for the show. And I think a lot of book fans aren't going to be happy with this. That's why I decided to start the video with it. But we do have Hari Seldon back, or at least a version of him. So will we get an answer to any of this? I don't know, but this has got huge implications for the show. And I think a lot of book fans won't be happy. But we do have Hari back, at least a version of him. The only reason I say that is, remember, this guy's technically over 100 years old and knows the Foundation is off plan and behind. As far as we know, the Vault Hari doesn't know this and is operating as if the second Foundation is on track. No, maybe he hasn't appeared in over 100 years because he knows it's off track. What do you think though? Let me know in the comments below. And I definitely think they're setting up two sides to the Foundation, with this one side being Hari and the other side being Gaal. Salvor isn't the genius that her mother is, and remember, when she seen the Prime Radiant in Season 1, she didn't understand it. But I guess we're going to need to know what happens in the caves. But anyway, once you've got over that shocker, back on Terminus, the Foundation is reacting to last week's vault opening. They can't believe the vault killed the Warden on purpose, but Polly did warn them that they might not be sticking to Hari's ideas. They do wonder how the Vault knew how to call someone called Hobor Mallo 100 years after it was created, which is a pretty good question. Polly seems to be the only one not bothered by any of these events, and he fully trusts in Harry's plans and predictions. He really wants to help save humanity, so he wants to find Hobor Mallo. And they know who this guy is. It turns out he was an ex-part of the Foundation sort of religious order. Before getting forced out, as he was more a grifter than a believer, which to be fair isn't far away from what they are. As the setup goes, Hobor is trying to gift a planet called Corel when we first meet him, and his reputation seems to precede him even there. He's kind of doing the Emperor's new cloak sort of thing, trying to sell a teleporting device that doesn't actually work. But the twist is that it does, and he uses it to steal a jewel called the Eye of Corel. But he does get caught pretty much straight away, just as Polly arrives on the planet in time to save him from his execution. And at first he doesn't seem that fussed about his impending doom, but I did think this is a guy who always has a plan for a plan in case the plan fails. And it turns out I was right. He switches again with the leader of Corel before his execution, pulling a fast one and escaping. And they're definitely setting this guy up to be the Han Solo of the show. Polly realises that Hobor might go after their ship because he knows it's jump capable, and they manage to get on board before he escapes. Now, it did seem like a lot of trouble, but they do have him on board and they're on their way back to Terminus. And we get another new character this week as well, General Bel Rios, who's been referred to in the last few episodes. So he's basically an ex-general that's fallen out of favour with the Empire, particularly Brother Day, and has been sent to a penal colony. This is where we find him, where prisoners are working in the field as Demerzel arrives, and she basically says what she's there for. And Bel Rios is a very interesting character because he knows how valuable he is. He actually tries to negotiate with Demerzel for the rest of the prisoners' freedom, but they talk him down to just better conditions. And this guy isn't afraid of the brothers Cleon, but we find out that they've hidden leverage against him. Bel thinks that the Empire killed his husband, but Demerzel tells him that he's still alive. So they might keep someone like this as a pawn to use against them at a later point, which seems to be what's happening. But anyway, Bel agrees to her deal, and I don't think that Day is going to be able to keep this guy under control long term. Like Queen Seraph, Bel isn't afraid to show that he isn't afraid of the Cleons, and once he gets to Trantor, Day brings him up to speed, letting him know that they found the Foundation on Sowina and want him to look into it further. And Day's figured out quite a lot. He's managed to work out that Harry wanted to be banished to the far reaches of space to build the Foundation, and they don't seem to be worried about that, at least in public. But Bel does ask to do something that we haven't seen before, and that's to be alone with Brother Day. And when they are on their own, Bel really goes at this guy. He knows that Brother Day's weakness is ego and vanity, and that the Empire can't look weak or stupid. This guy really gets what's going on, and I wonder if long term he's going to switch sides once he realises the scope of the Foundation and what they're up to. And you can tell that Bel really thinks that this is all a game and that his husband is dead. But they do have his better half who looks okay compared to Bel. And Bel breaks down, and I didn't think this would happen to be honest, but it proves that the Empire can get to you and the ones that you love. They've done it with Azura in Season 1, and this seems to be a theme with these guys. As I mentioned earlier, it shows that they plan ahead, keeping Bel's husband alive in case they had to use him again against them. And while I like this, I did think a lot of the Bel stuff and some of the scenes could have been a little bit shorter. But while this is going on, Day and Demerzel have been watching Bel and his better half, and they discuss why they recruited him. But this is the real interesting scene in this episode for me, is Demerzel reassuring Day. Because this feels like it could sort of lead to the downfall. She's literally programmed to be a yes man, and he's going to listen to her more than anyone. So there is a theory that Demerzel is behind the attack and the genetic stuff that's going on with the clones. I don't know if I'm fully subscribed to that yet, but you can also fully subscribe to this channel as well and let me know what you think. But Bel certainly seems to be a popular figure among the troops, and his husband encourages him to use that against the Empire. Bel explains to him that being loved makes him useful to the Empire and that he can better change things under them than trying to fight them essentially. but he's back in power and is on the hunt for the Foundation. Now, I don't think Day's going to let this dog off the leash without some insurance, so I assume that some of Bell's crews are plants or at least loyal to Empire, but we'll have to wait and see. But what we do see is they're sending quite a few ships out on this adventure to look for the Foundation, so expect a few big space battles to come. And that's about it. I really liked this episode despite the changes. They took a break from all the Cleon wedding stuff with Queen Seraph that they gave us last week, and we got some new characters that had been teased over the last few episodes. Bell's backstory and relationship with Empire seem like they are going to be very interesting, and I wonder where they're going to take this guy. Will he reason with the Foundation when he finds them, or is he just going to wipe them out? Or as I said, is he going to maybe join them? He seems smart enough to know when he's going to back a winner when he sees one, and he really is one of the few people who can clearly see that the clones aren't as strong as they project that they are. Now let's get to Hobor Mallo. I was kind of worried that's how they were going to do this guy as the sort of roguish, well, let's be honest, Han Solo. In one way it wasn't what I was expecting, in another it was completely what I was expecting, but I was hoping that the character would be a little bit older. Now, I'm not going to talk too much spoilers about these guys in the book if you haven't read them, but Hobor particularly is going to be an absolutely huge deal, and if you don't like him now, you're probably not going to like him later on. But as always, we're going to have to wait and see. Now, the big takeaway from this episode is we've got a live-action Hari Seldon back, and yeah, I get why you're not happy with that. It's okay, leave it in the comments. And I get why they've done this from a story point of view, because if you've got Jared Harris, you use Jared Harris. Got the two Harrys now, the live one and the one back on Terminus, and I wonder if they're going to see eye to eye, or they're going to have different approaches on where the Foundation goes next. I think that's going to be very interesting, because again, I can see this fracturing off into Hari versus Gaal, or Hari versus Hari. But what did you guys think about this resurrection of Hari Seldon? How the hell are they going to explain it, and how long is he going to be alive for? Because he wasn't in the vision with Gaal and Salvor in the future. But yeah, I really want to know what you think about this, so let me know in the comments below. Or, as always, you can follow me on Twitter at The Geeks Reviews. If you've made it this far, please leave a like on the video, and if you haven't done it already, subscribe to the channel. And as I mentioned, I've started a Patreon where I'm going to post longer form videos and drop videos early before they go on YouTube. So if you want to support the channel even further, you can do that from only $3 a month, and the links in the description. And as always, my name's Al, thanks for watching.